So, Generation 1, the Gloucester Meteor. Generation 2, the Electric Lightning. Generation 3, the Harrier Jump Jet. Generation 4, the Panavia Tornado. Generation 4.5, the Eurofighter Typhoon. And Generation 5, the F-35. These are all legendary aircraft, but it doesn't take much to see where this is going, despite the fact that there are only 4 fifth-generation fighters currently. The American F-22 Raptor, the also American F-35 Lightning, which was bought by the UK for naval strike fighter purposes, the J-20 Mighty Dragon of China, and the Su-57 of Russia. Britain has not domestically produced a fifth-generation fighter, yet it doesn't appear that that's going to happen at all. In effect, the RAF will skip the fifth generation. They'll continue to upgrade Eurofighter until Britain's sixth-generation fighter is ready. And this fighter will be named Tempest. Tempest should have a demonstrator by 2026. It's planned to be in full service by the year 2035, when it will replace Typhoon. Tempest is going to be effectively led by a few firms. BAE Systems, of course, Rolls-Royce, Leonardo, and MBDA. And you can already see the sort of roles that people are going to be fitting into there. BAE Systems providing a lot of general systems, Rolls-Royce on power and engine systems, Leonardo on sensors, effectors, and MBDA on payload. So, let's get into what the Tempest really represents before we can talk a little bit about the project itself. Tempest is described by the RAF as being agile, flexible, connected, rapid to update, and affordable. And apologies, I do have a bit of a cold. And all of these are capabilities that any sixth-generation fighter should have, that it should embody. Tempest will be a strike fighter, utilizing the most modern plug-and-play approach that the RAF has developed, and will continue to develop to and past 2035. And just for those who don't know, plug-and-play is what one might call configurability, or modularity. Parts can be changed, upgraded, adapted quickly. So that may be change in payload, general weapons systems, fuel tanks, specialized sensors. One can change in rapid response in accordance with mission parameters. Tempest also has delta wings and a pair of outward-pointing vertical stabilizers. It will accommodate stealth technology, as we have seen, really put forward in the fifth-generation fighters. The aircraft has a slightly raised rear fuselage section, and that means that one can effectively incorporate an S-shaped ducting behind its twin-engine inlets. And that means there's basically lower frontal radar cross-section, hugely reduced, as we've also seen with stuff like the F-22 and the F-35. Reducing radar cross-section is a must. It will have 2 engines, like the Typhoon, but they'll be placed deep inside the fuselage. Again, minimize radar and infrared signatures. Key to understanding the Tempest is understanding what being a 6th generation fighter entails. 5th generation fighter was defined really by stealth, by the ability to engage in certain maneuvers. But being 6th generation, particularly for Tempest, and that's not so well defined yet because there aren't so many 6th generation programs, but it looks to be the combination of manned, unmanned, and optionally manned platforms. So onboard, offboard data processing, a range of pilot decision aids when manned flight is being conducted. And they're calling this scalable autonomy. The idea is that the plane can, operate far, far better on its own. It's not merely assisted, it can actually do stuff on its own. And it optimizes all of the incredible speed that they're going to be able to develop, the ridiculous maneuverability, unmatched payloads seen so far, because this is the next generation of weapons system. So effectively, it can be turned into a UAS, which I find a pretty interesting concept. And of course, that generally improves capability. That means one can adapt it far more for certain mission parameters. And we can argue about the ethics, perhaps, of developing something which can cause so much damage as a strike fighter and making that autonomous. But at the end of the day, we must admit, beyond the potential for, Terminator-like AI, from an operational standpoint, it means that decisions can be made more rationally, more strategically, and with higher consideration of the implications of such decisions. So, from an operational standpoint, and we can get into the ethics at some point, it's probably pretty important and a pretty huge development. Tempest is going to have some really complex systems. It's going to need an enormous amount of power to enable it to be so fast, to be maneuverable. And that's where Rolls-Royce Systems comes in. They are developing advanced composite materials, using additive manufacturing, and they're producing really, really lightweight, power-dense configurations in regard to electrical circuiting. That means that Tempest can operate at higher temperatures, or at least internally, components can operate at higher temperatures. Moreover, they're promoting what's called integrated power, which is, from my basic sort of rudimentary understanding, it's where you have electrical systems that can optimize momentary or long-term power distribution. So you can optimize the power going to sensors and effectors, that sort of thing. And when they say Tempest will need a lot of energy, it will need a lot of energy, but this intelligent electrical system will mean that there are far fewer energy exchanges, less energy lost, as it were. I mean, obviously, energy is not lost, but converted to non-useful energy. And what Team Tempest believe is that this is going to open up the opportunity for gas turbine as a primary power source, which I think, excuse me, is rather interesting. And I think, unlike Typhoon, it's not going to actually need gas pressure startup, effectively, because it has such potent power sources. Something else you'll have seen in regard to the actual internal systems, or the interactive systems with potentially piloted, or potential pilots. Something you've probably seen on the F-35, on the F-22, is the £400,000 smart helmet. It's got a sort of visor that comes down, provides HUD that basically imposes some sort of augmented reality concept in order to operate better. Tempest goes way beyond this. It's going to implement some of the same concepts, but be far more advanced. So the cockpit will be more intelligent than ever than this current helmet. There will be no single physical dial or screen, but full augmented and virtual reality interactive displays for the pilot. Even the possibility of virtual smart cockpit assistance. So something beyond merely analytical systems at the moment that can, perhaps properly make decisions. Something else we see, I won't go into it too much today, but the idea of cloud combat, as it were, better communication, sensor interaction, and we are only really beginning to scratch the surface of this because we've got some time before it's implemented in-service systems. But the communication networks are going to be truly unreal, hugely advanced, and basically battle space optimizing. It's going to be enormous innovation in battle space technologies, all sorts really. I won't go into it too much now. Something else Tempest will have, which has been really emphasized, is hugely advanced effectors as a part of the sensor network, which is something that's perhaps a bit new. It will be able to use swarming technology, something akin to the original Lanka concept, the Loyal Wingman drone that it came out with, although it won't be under Project Mosquito, but we'll see something similar. Leonardo have also proposed radar warning receiver, and again, this technology will be, it will be more advanced, but currently it's 4 times more accurate than, I think, the Eurofighters in service warning receiver, and it's 1/10 the size of the current unit that's used. So with basically space optimization, physical optimization, Tempest is going to see a lot of upgrades, a lot more stuff that can be implemented, and a lot more power that can be used for it, because there will be more free power, effectively. The aircraft's 2 generators, and it will have 2 generators, like the Typhoon, 2 engines, will be able to provide 10 times more power than Typhoon's own generators. So one of the generators serves as an electrical starter, meaning you don't need, as I was saying earlier, this mechanical compressed air starting system for the engines, which is incredibly useful because that means that you have far more rapid operational potential, and I think that's the name of the project, Rapid Operational Capability, something along those lines. Anyway, we'll have to see how Tempest's payload turns out, because it's adapting, and I may be wrong on this, but there are a few munitions that I believe are currently compatible. So that's the Meteor missile, which is famous because it can strike air targets beyond line of sight, and SPEAR3, which I've talked about before, the Scalable. It can precisely strike targets from a standoff range. I can't find out what the others really are. Perhaps I'll have to keep digging. But it appears on the actual interactive page to display some sort of long-range naval strike missile. Again, that may be wrong, that's what it appears to be. Alongside a longer-range, larger cruise missile, which looks, and again, this is merely speculation, it looks like it may employ some sort of ramjet technology, potentially with a solar power unit on top for longer range flight, or cruise in this scenario. In regard to the project, Italy and Sweden have committed to the Tempest program, meaning, that's going to really see some advancement, because I believe Italy is still on Eurofighter, and Sweden, I believe, is still using the Gripen. Not 100% sure on that, but nonetheless, they're going to get 6th generation fighters, which will hugely increase potential, because I think Italy hasn't quite done the update work that the UK has on Eurofighter anyway. Japan has also agreed to collaborate on the engine, on the radar, particularly for the demonstrators, in alignment with their own 6th generation fighter, which I may have to do a video on, which is called the Mitsubishi FX. And by year's end, we'll know the extent of that collaboration. But I think I'll leave it there for today. I don't want to really overwhelm, but Tempest is an incredibly exciting prospect. So we'll have to see what happens, but I very much look forward to the advancements that are made, and it will be incredibly interesting to see the demonstrator in 2026. I'll leave it there.